Hello trainers, Professor Palm here, and did you know that out of all 18 typings, the most common dual type out of everything we've ever had introduced is normal and flying? As you can see, there are so many out there as we currently have a total of 27. As much as I really love flying type Pokemon, I just want to ask the question, why were there so many normal and flying type Pokemon? How come we had to wait till Generation 5 till we got our first pure flying type Pokemon with Tornandrous? But not only that, how come we had to wait for Generation 6 for the Rookity line to be the first pure flying type line that ever evolves? At the beginning of all of our journeys, I'm sure that almost all of us catch a normal and flying type Pokemon. Not just because we want something to go with us on the journey, but a lot of us really like having the ability to fly from place to place. After all, we can't bike and run everywhere forever. With the abundance of normal and flying type Pokemon that have been introduced over the years, there are so many to choose from and also add to your team. As you know, I started the idea of Birdbound, going through the regions and catching only bird Pokemon. It's a fun idea, especially if you want to learn more about bird Pokemon. However, there's one bird Pokemon that really does stand above the rest. Out of all birds that have been introduced in the world of Pokemon, there's always been that one bird that's always stood out to me, and I really do like it. And of course, I'm talking about Chatot. This is one of the coolest birds out there, not just because of its beautiful colors, not just because of its music note head, and not just because this Pokemon does not evolve. It's because this Pokemon has a cool talent, and it can speak our language. Rhetorical question, but next to Chatot, how many other Pokemon can you name that speak our language, that are not mythical or legendary Pokemon? Well, I hope that you can tell me, but I just want to say that Chatot being able to do this is a really cool feature. Not to mention, Chatot can be a real entertaining Pokemon, and at times it can be an annoying chatterbox. Fellow trainers out there, if you're trying to become a musician, a comedian, or even an actor, you'd be surprised, but Chatot is actually one of the best at all of those. It may not look like it, but Chatot has a good sense of humor, a great sense of rhythm, and this Pokemon even knows how to act. It makes me rather sad that Chatot has been very overlooked, but it's a very talented and very cool Pokemon. I think that it deserves more love. So let's talk all about Chatot today. This is a very talented songbird, and also we should get into the music and acting as well as comedic side of it. But before we do that, I want to give a very special thanks and shout out to my friend, ThatChloe, for the request of this video. I hope that you enjoyed this video to the fullest. You love Chatot? Well, we're going to talk all about it, and we're going to see why you love this Pokemon. However, you're not the only person that I'm going to be thanking today, ThatChloe. I want to give a very special thanks and shout out to artist HTTPKOOPA for my jersey. Today's jersey is the flying type jersey. Since we're talking about bird Pokemon as well as flying type Pokemon, this is the best jersey that I could wear. Also, I love flying type Pokemon. And if you really like these jerseys that I wear in my videos, you can buy them on Etsy. I have a link to HTTPKOOPA's Etsy shop in the description below. So please check him out and hey, buy a shirt. Also, he does a lot of incredible designs, so check him out. He's a really good artist. While I may not be sponsored, I still want to say thank you for everything, HTTPKOOPA, and also remember to tell him Professor Palm sent ya. Palm, Sassafras, Yamper. Well, I am trying to teach my Chatot how to speak. It's not going so great right now, but you know what? With some time, I think my Chatot will learn to speak. Also, this Pokemon just might be able to teach me how to keep up with some comedic timing, and I could probably even learn how to be a good musician. Well, why don't we learn everything we need to know about this talented bird with the little music note and chatterbox itself, Chatot. Chatot the music note Pokemon is based on a parrot, specifically a masked lovebird, which is a species of small parrot. However, its colorful feathers draws inspiration from blue and yellow macaws, and its musical note head crest takes inspiration from cockatoos. For its habitat, Chatot can be found in warm climates, so they oftentimes can be found living in tropical forests, and they also make their nests near the beaches. They enjoy a warm breeze and waves. They also really like the warm coastlines. Chatot has something that almost no other Pokemon has, and it's its tongue. You see, Chatot's tongue is very similar to that of a human's, and as a result, Chatot can cleverly mimic human speech, and it can even speak our language. While it's pretty impressive that Chatot can mimic human speech, that's not all it can do. You see, Chatot has the ability to mimic cries of other Pokemon. This is done by Wild Chatot as a tactic to trick other Pokemon into thinking Chatot is one of them. And oftentimes, when Chatot does this, it believes that other Pokemon won't attack it. And most of the time, it actually is proven correctly, and this effectively works. With a lot of practice, Chatot over time learns to speak our language. In fact, it's very rare that they ever say their own name again after they've learned so much of our language and even learned how to talk. The older Chatot gets, the more experienced Chatot becomes in speaking. It no longer needs to mimic. In fact, not only does Chatot speak in full sentences, but now it understands everything that it says. And it's even possible to have long and deep conversations with a Chatot. Because they enjoy mimicking and learning about others, Chatot are very social Pokemon, and they make friends fast. However, once it bonds to you, there is no escaping it, as Chatot really likes to entertain as well as always likes to be around others. Hey, on the bright side, at least you get free entertainment at all times with a Chatot. One of the most standout features on Chatot is its musical note head. Yep, despite this Pokemon having a beautiful colored body, the black music note head is one of the most known things about Chatot. That being said, Chatot loves music, and it also loves to sing. There are a few of them out there that are entertainers in the Sinnoh region. Never called Chatot a bird brain. This is because they have great memories, especially when it comes to songs. Chatot can memorize any song lyric and sing to them. Even when there's no music playing, it'll always sing. And sometimes, Chatot makes up its own songs. And when Chatot sings, it keeps in rhythm by flicking its feather-like tail like a metronome. Some Chatot work with musicians and teach them with their tails how to keep in rhythm. Also, there are many times that musicians keep a Chatot by their side because not only do they really enjoy the music, but also Chatot oftentimes can really help them write songs. Some experienced Chatot sing together in groups, and they make one incredible a cappella group. Sometimes their shows are sold out, especially in the Sinnoh region. Chatot made its main series debut a region early in the Pokemon Battle Frontier series episode, Strategy Tomorrow, Comedy Tonight, where it was under the ownership of Ada. She was an aspiring Pokemon comedian. Her Chatot had a habit of mimicking whatever it heard, flying away from her, and traveling to a local hospital to entertain children there. It was always seen outside of its Pokeball. In the core series games, Chatot has never been the signature Pokemon, the second in command, nor the frontrunner of anyone's teams. I'm sad to say, but the Sinnoh region did not introduce a single flying type expert. And seeing that Chatot has not appeared in many other games since Generation 6 makes me kind of feel sad that Chatot probably may never be the signature, the frontrunner, or even the second in command of anyone's team for the foreseeable future. Chatot is currently the only normal and flying type Pokemon that does not evolve and does not have any regional forms or any other forms. You see, while I know Farfetch'd was the first normal and flying type Pokemon that didn't evolve, in Generation 8 we were introduced to Sirfetch'd, so that brings it off the table. While I would like to say that yes, Squawkabilly does the same thing as Chatot, Squawkabilly has 4 different forms, or 4 different plumages. So this makes Chatot the only normal flying type Pokemon that currently does not evolve. Chatot has a signature move, being Chatter, which is a really cool move, as not only would it confuse your opponent, but you could also use your microphone on your DS and change its cry to whatever you record. This truly made it a one-of-a-kind move. Also, yeah, this was before Pokemon had the censorship, so you could say anything back in those days. In Generation 5, Chatot was the only Pokemon that was not a mythical or legendary that was banned from the Global Battle Union. This was due to Chatot's signature move, Chatter, having that ability to have any sort of cry. So yeah, because some people would go the extra mile and do stuff that was rather offensive, Pokemon took a precaution in order to make sure this wouldn't happen. Thankfully, in Generation 6, this was changed. However, if you traded Chatot from any of the other games, its old cry it had also was reverted back. In all the Generation 4 games, Chatot was the only Pokemon whose cry was not altered when it faints or was sent out with a status condition. This was changed in Generation 5. On a rather ironic note, despite Chatot having a tail like a metronome, it cannot learn the move metronome through level up nor through TM. And in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Time and Explorers of Darkness, Chatot is Wigglytuff's assistant at the Wigglytuff Guild. Almost every Pokemon out there has advantages and disadvantages. Chatot, being a normal and flying type Pokemon, has a few weaknesses to moves that are Rock type, Electric type, and Ice type. Only 3 weaknesses for Chatot. Then again, normal and flying has always had these 3 weaknesses. Despite it being a dual typing, the normal typing has always been negated for flying type Pokemon. Well, now that we saw Chatot's weaknesses, how about we see what gives it an advantage in battle, and we check out Chatot's strengths. Despite Chatot's normal typing, it doesn't have any strengths with any normal type moves. However, with its flying type moves, Chatot gets an edge in a battle when it uses flying type moves that are super effective on Pokemon that are fighting type, bug type, and grass type. Wow, 3 weaknesses and 3 strengths. What an even split. However, because of Chatot's unique typing of normal and flying, it also has a few immunities. So let's see what doesn't hurt Chatot whatsoever when it fights. Normal type Pokemon have a single immunity, and the same goes for flying type Pokemon. Put them together and a normal and flying type Pokemon have immunity to moves that are Ghost type and Ground type. Kinda sad that it doesn't have 3 immunities, then it could be the whole 3-3-3, but you know what? Sometimes let's take the good with what we got. And Chatot's awesome typing not only is the most common one out there, also the fact that it's one of the only few flying type Pokemon that doesn't evolve really makes it a standout. Every Pokemon is special as they have an ability to show for it. If you catch a Chatot in the wild, this Chatterbox can have one of 2 abilities, being either Keen Eye or Tangled Feet. A Chatot with the ability Keen Eye has superior eyesight, so if anything tries to lower Chatot's accuracy or blind it in battle, that won't happen, as it's got great vision that always sees at 20/20. And for a Chatot with the ability Tangled Feet, it can be one of the hardest targets to hit, because when it's confused, Chatot's evasiveness rises. I guess being confused and a songbird really does come in handy, making you trip over your feet and avoid any attack. And for hidden abilities that were introduced in Generation 5, Chatot's hidden ability is Big Pecks. It may be a small music note bird, but it's tough, as its defense will not be lowered and it will stand up and look down to its enemies with its big breast feathers. We've had a lot of bird Pokemon introduced over the years, but Chatot stands out the most because it's the first bird Pokemon that's a songbird, and it's the first bird that can speak our language. How many other fellow avian Pokemon can say that without saying their names? I've talked many times about sound type and why I think it would make sense if it was introduced in the world of Pokemon. Seeing that Chatot sings and uses a move that deals damage with talking, if the sound typing was a thing, I think that typing would fit Chatot perfectly. This Pokemon loves to make all sorts of wonderful sounds, as well as it really likes to keep in rhythm. Chatot deserves more in my opinion, not just with a type change, a regional variant, or an evolution, but to be in more games. The most recent game it was in was Legends Arceus. I just find it preposterous that we've had games in regions based off of Spain and Hawaii, where parrots and macaws live, but even after all that, it did not appear. I hope that down the line, Chatot gets its chance to shine, and I hope it comes back, because it really is a one-of-a-kind Pokemon. Chatot can be a real chatterbox, and some may find it annoying, while others prefer the company with a Chatot. Being a social Pokemon, Chatot always likes to make friends and entertains others with its ability Mimic. So, you know, if you think that this Pokemon is worthwhile, you should definitely catch it. After all, going on a journey can sometimes be lonely, and it's nice to have someone to talk to, especially having some chitty chatter.
Well, trainers, did you learn anything new about Chatot? This is a really cool Pokemon. I just hope that it gets its chance to shine. This Pokemon deserves the spotlight, as it can do so much for us. Well, we've reached the end of the video, but before we end, I just want to ask all of you out there a few questions. During Generation 4 with the games Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, did you ever use your Chatot's chatter ability to record anything, or did you just prefer its normal cry and didn't really like the idea of recording something over it? With how many Pokemon that get new evolutions introduced in a new generation, do you think that Chatot deserves to get a new evolution, or do you think it's okay the way it is? Or do you think that maybe this Pokemon should get itself a regional variant down the line? Do you like the whole normal and flying type Pokemon typing, or do you think that flying type should have been a pure typing since day one, and that we need way more of them for the future regions? Are you interested in the entertainment business? If so, which one do you want to be a star in? Do you want to be a star musician, a star actor, or do you want to be a star comedian? Check out all these bird Pokemon around me right now. I'm just curious to know, who is your favorite bird Pokemon of all time? Have you ever started an adventure choosing a bird starter? If so, who was the first bird starter Pokemon you ever had? I love bird Pokemon trainers, and I hope that many of you out there love them as much as I do. Well, if you liked what you saw, then please leave a like. If you have any questions, you want to answer any of the questions I threw at you, you want me to cover another Pokemon or Pokemon line, you want me to have an idea of yours turned into a video, or you want me to cover something that's going on in the world of Pokemon right now, then don't be afraid to comment. And as always, if you liked what you saw and you want to see more, smash that subscribe button. Also, being a Pokemon professor, I hope I can teach so many of you trainers out there. So I hope that you share these videos and recommend me to as many trainers out there. As a Pokemon professor, that's my job. ThatChloe, I hope that you enjoyed this video to the fullest. Thanks for recommending it. I think that Chatot's a great Pokemon, and I hope that you learned some new things about Chatot. Well, until then, thanks for watching, trainers. Palm out!